Okay, I'm just gonna say it. This is why Tesla needs to start, like, updating the website, kind of resetting some expectations, because people are gonna leak this stuff. And I'm not saying they were right to leak it, and it's very likely that the video we're talking about today resulted in someone somewhere getting fired. And I don't want people to think I'm defending that in any way, but in my opinion, it's kind of unreasonable and kind of like denying reality to just not talk about the fact that the leak has happened. Like, it's out there now, people are gonna share it around. So let's talk about it and weigh in on our opinions on the leaks, because of course that's what we've been covering over the past few years. But yeah, if there's any Tesla employees that would like to keep their job and have good sources for reference in the future with their next job, yeah, I highly discourage this type of behavior. But putting all of that to the side for a second, yes, someone was able to record a video inside what appears to be a release candidate Cybertruck, and from what I can tell, this one looks like production ready, like very little evidence of it being a prototype or even a beta unit. Like, this one looks ready to go to a customer. And we definitely got a close-up look at the updated user interface, which I'm very grateful for, because we saw some, leaked photos earlier that just basically looked like the Cybertruck was just using the same code as a Model X, just with some new assets thrown in there. This video showcases quite a fundamental rethinking of the user interface and taking advantage of the Cybertruck's larger, according to Matthew DR, an 18-inch display. We can see Tesla using different icons and fonts for which is done on a touchscreen, just like the refreshed Model 3 and the new Model S and X. But we notice, like, the battery icon is different now. It's not just a standard battery icon, it's like a bunch of little lines. And clearly whoever was recording this video was trying to get some insider scoop, because you can see them repeatedly tapping the battery icon, trying to see what the max range number is. Maybe Tesla was smart enough to build that into this early release Cybertruck code. Like, don't say anything about the range, but in my opinion, that probably means it's not going to be great. Like, if the Cybertruck range was over 500 miles, I feel like they would want the rumors to suggest that. If they're hiding it and, removing the feature that works on all existing Teslas, you tap on the battery icon and then it switches to range numbers instead of percentage. For them to go out of their way to turn that feature off probably means that this is a, 300 plus mile range, not 500 plus, but I digress. They also, at least in this configuration we've seen, moved a lot of the apps on the dock over to the left side of the screen. So now you can launch Spotify and the new camera app, which appropriately, I love these kinds of attentions to detail. They have redesigned the icon for the camera app to be a hexagon instead of a circle, which is so appropriate for the Cybertruck vehicle. And not only do you have, like, the asset of the truck there, but also its surroundings. It appears to be on this, like, three-dimensional rough grid. I'm curious if it, like, has some kind of off-roading mode built in there, where, like, the surroundings of the truck change depending on how you're driving and stuff. Even the climate controls appear to be a little bit below that, so I feel like it's built around the driver. I'm very curious how the climate controls are going to work when there's a passenger in the vehicle. Maybe, like, the UI updates if it realizes that someone else is in the car. That would be kind of smart, keep the HVAC controls really close to the driver unless someone else is in the car, then they can have more controls on their side. And we also can see kind of like a blurred gradient between the maps and the Cybertruck controls and visualization, instead of that just straight hard line that we're used to seeing on all of our Teslas now. So there's a lot of updates in this code that probably could make its way into other Teslas in the future. Maybe this is all holiday update stuff. But yeah, outside of that, I think the guy who was filming the video was kind of showcasing that, similar to the new refreshed Model 3, the key card, if you want to use that instead of your phone key, activates by just putting it behind the wireless charger on the center console. And we can see him bring up the camera feeds, which I believe showcase that this Cybertruck was in transit, like it was on a trailer somewhere. It's very possible that maybe this wasn't necessarily a Tesla employee, but more of a Tesla contractor that was, like, driving around Cybertruck units to, I don't know, service centers for training, or maybe different delivery centers to get ready for, like, a widespread delivery event. That would be really cool. And the guy, of course, has been trained on how to, load them on and off the trailers so that he can deliver them. And maybe, of course, he wasn't supposed to, whipped out the phone and was like, I'm gonna record as much little information as I can. And we also see him point upwards, and we notice that the sun visors in the Cybertruck are not as Model X inspired as I was hoping. I was expecting that because it has that massive windshield that kind of goes past your head, similar to a Model X, they were gonna build build the sun visor into the side column instead of straight across, lucid air style. And mostly the reason I don't like the lucid style is because the sun visor, when it's locked in its resting place, eats into your, like, I don't know, peripheral vision above. That's something I've always loved about sitting in the front of the Model X, is that windshield just keeps all the way going, covering all of your vision when you're sitting forward. And this, I'm sure the windshield is still quite impressive and massive, but the sun visors are going to be kind of eating into that windshield space. Although they should probably work fairly well compared to the Model X sun visors, which I've heard a lot of people complain that they're not big enough. The Cybertruck ones look huge, and they kind of double fold, so they can fold down and extend even further, which makes sense. You're going to be looking out of a ginormous windshield on this truck, so you're going to want a way to block out that sun when you're driving in the dawn or dusk. And of course, like any other Tesla, he also showcases there's a little emergency flash button. In the US, I believe that's required to be a physical one. So overall, I gotta say I'm mostly impressed. I'm thankful that Tesla appears to be adding all kinds of exclusives and custom little detail images to the Cybertruck user interface. That's really encouraging. And while it is early code and, you know, none of this is officially announced yet, so we probably shouldn't get ahead of ourselves, I could foresee a little bit of criticism by having so many icons and so much data so close together. Like, you've got your app icons, you got your HVAC controls, and your gear selector, and the weather outside, and the battery SoC, and the time of day all bunched in this little top left corner, which I guess you want it to be close to the driver, so I suppose that makes sense. Maybe the UI updates when you're actually driving, and that's just how it is when you're parked, but personally, I hope there's options. I'm all in favor of there being more settings so that people can customize the UI the way they want. I just think putting the app icons, and, you know, nowhere in the UI do we see a quick toggle for heating and cooled seats, which is what most of us have in our dock on the landscape displays, which is good, right? You know, it's a rectangular screen. You want to have a lot of quick commands when you're driving, so you can just tap one thing to turn it on or turn it off. So you would want to put that on, like, the longer side of the screen, not the shorter side of the screen, but who knows, maybe Tesla's software team feels a bit more comfortable changing the UI up a bit because it's a larger display, so maybe you can more efficiently fit a lot of space in this thing. It's a larger vehicle, so you can accommodate for that larger display, and maybe the icons don't feel like there's too much overlapping going on. But of course, I'm very curious to hear what you guys think of this most recent round of leaks. What do you think of the sun visor placements, the user interface? Is it not as cool as you were hoping? Like, that original Cybertruck prototype we saw back in 2019 had a very custom, very specialized UI. This design that we're seeing in the leaked video looks a bit more in line and a bit more similar to what we're used to in our existing Teslas. Maybe that saves the software team some time by having some symmetry, and yet at the same time, I will give it some credit for finding a way to be unique with little details like the battery icon being updated, the font being more cyber-esque. Like, I don't think there's actually a Tesla logo anywhere on the Cybertruck. Even the charge light indicator is like the little triangular Cybertruck symbol. There's the Cybertruck ink in the front area that we've seen, so there's some branding on the inside, but on the outside, yeah, this vehicle doesn't need a logo, right? That's how iconic, that's how unique it is. The Cybertruck is its own logo, and I love and appreciate that about it. So here's hoping we don't have to wait too much longer and we can actually get a delivery event in the next couple weeks. Tesla definitely missed out on that Q3 timeline, but here's hoping they can still deliver by the end of the year. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. It seriously helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.